Frankie, we won a home league game. At last, we won one, and quite a comfortable one as well, and a big scoreline, 4-1 against Ipswich. What did you make of the game at the weekend?
It was all right. It's about as far as I'm going to go with it. And the boy certainly enjoyed it more. To him, it was just, we've scored 4 goals. I don't see it very often. So he was over the moon. To me, I just think Ipswich got it very, very, very wrong. I think if you're sort of analysing it from a neutral sort of perspective, we criticise our managers for getting things wrong at times. I think this was a pure case of Ipswich. I just can't believe what they did. The way that they come out and just sat off us and give us all the space. It just played into our hands absolutely perfectly. I still can't believe how they approached the game. And it made life very, very easy for us. All the things that we struggle with, they decided not to do. So it was like, thank you very much, rub our hands together and to have a nice, easy, comfortable day. So that was it.
Some good performances, though. Was there anyone that stood out for you?
Again, I still put it more, and I'm not going to just criticise things. I think Antonio looked a bit more lively, but once again, I think the way that they played helped that. I think I've been very critical of Rodriguez, and I still think he's not up to the pace of the Premier League, but I don't think it was a Premier League paced football match. I thought they gave us acres of space in the midfield. When Rodriguez is allowed to put his foot on the ball, look up and pick a pass, all the talent and ability in the world. When he gets pressed and he's got no time to think, and he's sort of under pressure and he hasn't got the pace to get away from players and so on, that's when he comes massively unstuck. Souček, again, another fantastic performance with him. So very happy with that. So all round, there was good performances, but I'm still not 100% sure that we've answered any of the problems we had in previous matches in that Ipswich match. I don't think we've done anything necessarily different or switched it up or changed it or answered any of those questions that we had post Brentford or, the match before that. I'm still like, I'm not sure we've actually found any solutions. We just had an easier day at the office.
Is it possible to give you the answer still, given that we were playing a newly promoted team? Because
no, probably not. And we asked those questions, didn't we? We said, is this going to be one of them games where it's pressure on because the expectation is there? Obviously, I predicted a 3-0 win. Obviously, it wasn't quite that, but there was still that margin. And I firmly believed that was going to be the case. Yes, okay, they look good against Villa. If they played the way they did against Villa, they might have had a better day of it, and we might have found it a bit more difficult. But they didn't play how they played against Villa. It was almost like we're away from home. We need to change what we're doing. Well, they should have stuck to what they were doing in the first place, because they were. I feel they would have given us more questions. So, we were sitting there. Is it going to be one of those games where it's added pressure because the expectation's there, or is it going to be the perfect opportunity for us to basically turn our sort of misfortune around a little bit, to have a bit of an easier day? And that's exactly what it ended up being. It was just a much, much easier football match than we'd had in recent weeks. So don't get me wrong, it was welcomed. I'm happy about it. We're all feeling a lot better for it. I just look over the horizon and see Tottenham on the way. And has that game given me extra confidence against Tottenham? No, it hasn't. There was nothing that I saw that made me think we're now going to be, a force to be reckoned with Tottenham. And I can see the things that we've changed that's improved us, and this is going to be better and that's going to be better. I'm not thinking like that. I'm still sitting here thinking, yeah, it hasn't really changed much.
I can see some reasons for me to get my hopes up going into the Spurs game, which is the form of Jared Bowen, the form of Todibo, but it's more individual performances rather than a tactical master plan from Lopetegui. But likewise, there's maybe 1 or 2 reasons for me to be pessimistic going into the Spurs game, and that's the international break with the impact it usually has on Michail Antonio, which is a shame because I think he had a really good game against Ipswich personally. So it swings and roundabouts a little bit. I don't think Saturday is going to determine our season. I don't think it's going to determine Ipswich's season either. I think if they go down, they're not going to look back at the game against West Ham at London Stadium and go, "Oh, that was the reason that we went down." I think it's one of those. It's a nice, easy afternoon for West Ham and a bad one for Ipswich. And I agree with you. I think McKenna got it wrong, not just tactically, but personnel as well. But I think it's just because I'm not a big fan of, I say a big fan, I'm not a fan of Burns at all. I think I'm not sure he's up to the Premier League ability, to be honest with you. And I was surprised when the team came out not to see Benny playing. And initially, I was surprised to see Twanzebe not playing in Ben Johnson in, but now we've discovered why. Because Twanzebe nearly cut his thumb off, apparently. He had to get surgically stitched back on Twanzebe's thumb. So he almost... He almost lost I think a digit, the Ipswich defender. But I agree with you. I think Ipswich were poor on the day. And, I appreciate a lot of people. I read a lot of people's comments today. Were thinking I was being a bit unkind to West Ham and Ipswich, but it's how I seen it too. I thought they were poor. And, their form coming into the game, I thought it was going to be a tough fixture for us because Ipswich were looking good. But the game against us was not the Ipswich I've seen so far this season. I think that must have been one of their worst performances. I know what some Ipswich fans think, and I do think that would be not a great showing from them. They'll be better after the break to some extent. What about Tadebo, though? He was a player you were excited to see join. He's come in, he's had to be patient, and he said Lopetegui's handled him really well. And I would suggest that he's backed those words up a little bit by almost showing us what he can do now. I think he had a decent game against Brentford, but I thought he was outstanding against Ipswich, truth be told. There's a cap on that because of who we were playing, but Delap's still a really good striker.
Yeah, no, we're both good, fans of Delap, and I've been a bit unfair there. I forgot to mention him when you said who stood out and so on. He was the standout performer for me. I feel Rodriguez was better, but I think, like we said, the way they played helped. I think Souček was good again, but I think the way they played helped. Tadebo, I thought, just was the outstanding performer. He was the man of the match for me. I thought he was fantastic. I think it's gone a little bit unnoticed because it was such a good save from Areola with a save that Areola made. But that ball's coming back to that striker. The header's there. And normally when you're sort of flat-footed as a defender and the striker's got momentum going forward, it's very easy for the attacker to get in front of you and get their head on that ball. He was strong, like seriously strong. And then to get that ball away, that rebound, I thought it was in. As soon as it bounced back from Areola, I thought that's a goal. And the way that he stood his ground, held the defender off and managed to put the ball out for a corner was superb. Yeah, I mean, it's looking like it's got all the makings of a really good centre-back partnership. Everything that we kind of wanted to see from West Ham, playing the ball out, being more comfortable on the ball, still strong, more physical, more athletic. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it develops. It's crazy to think that the two sort of standout signings seem to be centre halves, but there's nothing wrong with that because if we can be solid at the back, it's going to give us a good platform moving forward. So, no, really happy. I still think Kilman's great. I think the way he gets the ball down, the way he looks up and gets the play moving is good. But if he can get that man alongside him with that bit of aggression and the way that Tadebo was travelling out from the back, he was just looking like he's really getting up to pace. So where I've got concerns that Rodriguez is never really going to get there in terms of getting up to speed with the Premier League, it seems like Tadebo has been kind of nurtured rather than coming in and having his confidence knocked because he wasn't quite ready. I think we're all sitting there thinking, hang on a minute, why have we spent so much on this guy and he's not straight in the team? Especially when Mavropanos was making mistakes. And, a lot of people are still calling for Mavropanos to play a role. And I'm sure there are going to be certain matches where we think, do you know what, we need a towering centre half to put up against their attackers and whatever, and Mavropanos can do a job. So it's a nice position for us to be in. I think, that's the part of the pitch at the moment that we could become quite comfortable with, to be honest.
I think it's the only part of the pitch where it feels like he's got his first 11 to some extent. The midfield pairing, I don't think he quite knows the best midfield pairing yet at West Ham. I suspect it might be Alvarez and Souček in the long run, but I don't think he's got it sorted. And then I still think Paqueta is underperforming a little bit. He'll be better on Saturday, but I still think he's I thought he was our poorest player. Now that level wasn't bad. It was not like he had a bad game. I thought he was okay, but I think the rest of the team were good. And then, there's this talk around his ban and stuff like that. And then we've got Antonio's international break. So I think the defense is the only part of the team that he's now got sorted. I feel quite confident that back five, including the goalkeeper, will be the back five against Spurs. But the rest of the team, I don't know. I think there's a couple of shirts up for grabs, personally. Before we move into the second part of the show, you've got any questions for this podcast next week, please leave them in the comments below. Because it's international break, it allows us to take a step away from the usual discussing the latest match and the next match. We can discuss anything West Ham related. So if you've got any questions specifically for Frankie or just general topics around West Ham you would like us to discuss, please get them in the comments of this video. And next week, myself and Frankie will answer them all. And that will be next week's podcast. But Frankie, I was wondering what you were thinking of Lopetegui overall now, not Saturday, but just his time at West Ham thus far. What's that, 7 league games and 2 cup games now, so 9 games he's been here. Mixed bag of results, but maybe expected. I think the results are all fair in terms of maybe what you'd class West Ham as in terms of a team and as a club today. Losing against Man City and Chelsea, getting a win away to Crystal Palace, a draw away to Fulham, beating Ipswich at home. It feels like the results were all maybe what the bookies were expecting pretty much for every single game. Maybe not the Palace one. I think they might have thought we'd lose that one. What's your thoughts on Lopetegui, whether it be good, bad, or ugly?
Well, Palace aren't looking very good at the moment, are they? Where they're sitting in the Premier League, they're not the Palace that we knew last season. So, yeah, I think you're probably about bang on there, really. I think it's probably been a very average, steady start. There's nothing really to excite me yet. I'm not sitting here, even after the Ipswich game. I know there's a lot of talk, but I still think they were just so poor. I'm still yet to get excited. I'm still yet to go, cool, wow, that's amazing. I love how we're playing there. There's no really standout for me. It's all a bit steady Eddie stuff, really. I think he's had some big calls to make. He's handling some quite difficult situations well. But let's have a look and think, what were our criticisms under Moyes? And one of them may be that he didn't give any youth any opportunity. Well, we're still not seeing that. So it's not happening.
Yeah.
I would say we probably have a little, I still feel like, and I'd love to see this statistically, but I still feel like we're having a little bit more of the ball. I do feel that way. We're still not creating loads of chances. Yes, okay, there's the argument for Ipswich, but take that one out. Were we creating loads of chances? Not really. There was them early stats that we were actually one of the lowest creating sides within the league. So that's there. We were still leaking goals, and we still like to leak goals at the moment as well. So the goals. So I'm sitting here thinking, what are the big differences that we're seeing? And I'm not saying there's loads. It kind of feels like we're not a million miles away from where we were last year. We've had some more positive results than the previous year's fixtures. We've had some fixtures that we've done better, some we've done worse. It's all a bit of a 50-50, to be honest. I'm still very much on the fence. I've always said give him time. I've always said be patient. We need him to, get used to a new team and so on. But yeah, I'm neither excited nor underwhelmed. I just sort of see it as we're just drifting along okay, which, to be honest, is probably quite all right for West Ham in certain seasons. But I feel like our expectation may have crept up a little bit from there. And I understand why people, do expect a little bit more. I was listening to Nigel Khan. I can't remember what show it was, but he was on quite late at night the other evening, and he was saying, look, this is pretty all right for West Ham, and I do agree with that. As a normal West Ham season, this is probably a pretty decent start for us, and everything's all okay. But we got used to European football. We got used to being a step on from there. So, I always said this season is going to be a mid-table season, and I didn't really expect any more than that. But there's still a little part of me that had hope, and there's still a little part of me that when we saw some nice signings come in that we could try and kick on. I think that's gone a little bit. I don't see us challenging for top 7 this season. I think that is. There were still some people who had that sort of, were still talking in that way. And even some of the pundits were all saying, oh, I expect West Ham to be challenging top 6 this year. I think we can say that that's not going to be the case because it's going to be a bit too up and down week to week. But can you build on what we've got? Very possibly. But again, I'm saying, what can we build on for the future and what we're looking at under Lopetegui? Antonio would be the big obvious replacement area that I think he needs, someone with a little bit more whatever. But again, Nigel Khan said, and I don't think anybody agreed with him when he said, I want Souček and Antonio to start against Ipswich, and that's how he would line up. And then Souček has a fantastic game and Antonio gets a goal within the first few seconds. So he called that absolutely spot on, while everyone's sort of writing off Antonio, wanting to see a free of Somerville, Bowen and Kudus. He's still very much stuck with Antonio, and Antonio pops up and gets a goal and puts in a good performance. So I don't know, Gio. I did expect to see maybe a little bit more. I wanted to see just a little bit more excitement from West Ham. I'm not quite there yet.
I wasn't expecting it, but that's just because of free opinions pre-Lopetegui joining West Ham. But I've actually started to get a little bit of hope that we could have a better season than initially predicted. And I'm not expecting anything. I'm not going to get carried away. But, pre-season, my prediction was 11th. And I think we're on course for that. However, I'll tell you what's given me a little bit of hope. And it's not necessarily West Ham. It's the other teams. So I'm going to ask you the question, Frankie, off the top of your head, without thinking about it too much. Which teams do you feel are guaranteed to finish above us this season? Right, let's just start with the obvious ones. So Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal. Let's go from there. Who else are you adding in?
Chelsea.
Villa. I'll let you take over now. You've got.
I'm still going to go with Newcastle.
Yeah.
It's going to be a crazy one, this one, because of where they are. And I still think we smash them after the international break. I think we steamroll Man United. I'm convinced we absolutely give it to Man United. Absolutely convinced. But I still think long term that they will finish above us in the league. I think Brighton will finish above us. I think Brighton are looking good value. So I think they finish above us as well.
And Spurs, you haven't mentioned Spurs.
Spurs. Who cares? Well,
that's 9 though, so that would put us 10th. But
and that's where I expect us to be.
Out of those two, I'm not sure. When I said guaranteed, I mean nailed on. I'm not sure I'd include Man U as being, or Brighton. I think I like Brighton though, but I'm not sure they're nailed on to finish above us. But my point is, I think it's up for grabs. Do you know what I mean? I think there's maybe 6 or 7 teams you can go, fine. But at the minute, watching the likes of Spurs and Man U, it's hard not to look at them and think, there's a chance. There's a chance. And do you know something? Brighton fans should be watching it thinking, there's a chance. And do you know who else, weirdly? This is maybe where I'm going to get the flat. Nottingham Forest fans could be watching it thinking, do you know what? Why can't we finish above them this season? They've had a really good start to the season.
They have had a much better start than I could have imagined. So.
Me too. But why should you not be able to look at Man U and think, we can finish above this slot? Because it's possible. So I'm maybe getting a little bit of hope from other teams rather than necessarily anything that we've done, because I expect us to be in and around mid-table. And we're picking up points where I didn't expect us to. When we do the match previews, when it was the Brentford game, I thought we'd lose. We got a point. Fulham, in fairness, I thought we'd draw that one. Crystal Palace, I thought we'd draw. We got a win. So we're actually +4 points +3 points from what I thought we'd be in terms of predictions. So we're ahead of what I was expecting, to be honest with you, which... When I look at it like that, I think we're doing okay. I think my opinion on Lopetegui and West Ham hasn't really changed much since the start of the season, because I just think it's just another bit. Every game's just another bit of evidence rather than anything too defining. But I don't know. I'm just hoping for a little bit more of an identity, I guess, post-international break. And I think the next run of fixtures is a really good run to see where we're really at. Spurs, Everton, Forest, Man U. Right, okay, let's see. Get a decent points haul out of that. And I think you can start to get your hopes up. But just as easily you could find yourself coming out of that with minimum points, and you're still in the bottom half of the Premier League table, and you're maybe closer to 17th than you are 7th. So I think this next period is quite an important batch of fixtures before we hit then there's an international break, and then we hit a lot of fixtures in December, which could really determine what your ambitions are. But I'm okay so far, Frankie. I'm pleased we won on Saturday, but like you said, I think it was a poor Ipswich. Let's see how we do against maybe teams that we're going to be finishing in and around. Not so much Everton, but the other 3, I don't think we'll be far away from them come May, one way or another. So looking forward to it. Anything else you'd like to discuss or talk about before we disappear?
No, not really. All a little bit quiet on the Western Front this week, but that's quite a welcome change to last week. It's quite nice that we're not sitting here with loads of stories or rumours or issues that are going down. So, do you know what? Rather than trying to unearth something else, I think we just accept that we've had
West Ham, though, Frankie, we're never too far away from the next story.
No, absolutely right.
There's always something just round the corner. But I think football's been taken over by the Manchester City and Premier League thing in the last day or so, which is focused journalist attention elsewhere, and obviously Ten Hag is under pressure. Spurs were Spurs, and also you've got Gary O'Neill under pressure. So I think there's other clubs that are the
dreaded vote of confidence come out for him today. So the writing could be on the wall.
Yeah, but other clubs are the centre of attention at the minute, because if we had got beat by Ipswich, I'd imagine journalists would have been all over David Sullivan and whatever. But because we won, it's like, we'll leave West Ham be for a few weeks yet, and we'll focus on the other ones. Man United are the most clickbait team in the world, so journalists are going to focus on them at the minute under Ten Hag. Anyway, shall we leave them, my friend?
Yeah, let's leave it there. I just can't believe how quickly the international break come back round again.
I know.
You just get back into the swing of football, and then there's another break again. So really frustrating. I wish we're going to watch West Ham again this weekend, but we're not.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been taking Tottenham on this weekend. I would have felt confident of beating them. If we were playing Spurs this weekend, would you fancy beating them?
No.
Would you not?
No.
I would.
And just again, because of that how much higher they are up the pitch, how much they press teams, how much they suffocate teams, there is a chance that we've got that obviously counter attack opportunity with our forward players, because Bowen loves a counter attack. So if Bowen can have his tail up like he did, and he's obviously made comments on England and said that was all the motivation that he sort of needed, that might just be the thing that gives me a bit of hope there. And I always fancy us against Tottenham, because Tottenham's Tottenham, and we saw exactly that Tottenham are the same old Tottenham we all know and love last weekend. So that was brilliant to see. So, but I'm just dreading it a little bit, just because I feel like the way that they play is not how we find that a little bit uncomfortable. When Rodriguez is under pressure and when teams are putting it on us a little bit, I think we panic a little bit and we're not as good on the ball, and that's when we struggle. So hopefully the counter attack comes into play for us, and when we come back, and that will be our saving grace. But no, I wouldn't be as excited about it as you if we was playing them this weekend.
I would be. I think we had beast mode Antonio. I think a large part of this is because of our difference of opinion of Antonio. I think we had beast mode Antonio on Saturday, and he loves playing Spurs, so we could have had that version. Yeah, but because of the international break, unsure we're going to have that version against Tottenham when we do play them. But Frankie, thank you very much for joining me. And you guys at home, thank you very much for joining us. Get involved in the comments. Give us your thoughts on what we've discussed today. And also any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss next week, please leave them below in the comment section and we'll cover every single one of them. But thank you very much for joining us at home. Please do drop a like on the video by clicking thumbs up. Subscribe to Thomas Chat, myself and Frankie. Catch you in a bit.